Well, welcome back to me. It has been about 3 weeks since I've been uploading anything. That's because the day job is keeping me particularly busy, and I've been off to Oshkosh, which was a fantastic experience. But now I'm back. I've updated my sim because I had a lot of add-ons that needed updating, and I decided to purchase another one, which of course is this one, the PMDG Boeing 737-600, and it's $35, so I thought, why not? Now, I'm not an airliner type of guy, so I don't often fly these things. And if you're a 737 captain or experienced in this type of aircraft in the sim, then go easy on me, or tune away and watch another video, because procedurally I'll probably get a fair few things wrong, but I'll be following a basic checklist and we'll discuss what we're going to do in just a minute. But this video will include a startup, just to run through some of the switches. Just if you're having issues starting it up, it's not as scary as it first appears, even though there's lots of switches. We'll do a red flag style departure, so that's the Dream 2 departure, and I'll be using a checklist that I found on the DCS forums, and I'll link everything I've used in here in the description below for your reference. So without further ado, let's jump in and start it up, and if you want to skip ahead, I'll use chapters so you can go to the takeoff, topper climb and approach sections. So here we go. Okay, first things first, like most aircraft, you're going to make sure the parking brake is enabled. That is this one here, and it is. On the overhead panel, we're going to start some power, so let's put the battery cover down. Makes everything come alive. The standby power cover is also down. I'll use my custom views to have a better view of the overhead panel here, and we're going to make sure the light is on, steady position light, so that people outside know we're going to start. We're then going to select the APU to start, and what you'll notice is the EGT gauge will rise all the way up to about 800, then back down to about 300 to 400. The blue gen off bus light here will illuminate, so we can apply the generator in the APU, and we can put APU gen on this overhead panel to make sure things are working. So that takes about 2 minutes. Let's see what else we can get on with whilst we're doing that. On the FMC, under FS actions, we can go ahead and remove the chocks if it lets me. Maybe it doesn't. In fact, we need to go back to the doors. Doors, close the door. And then we'll go back to push back if it lets me. We'll cycle the tug. Don't want the tug. Okay, there we go. So we've got the chocks removed, and that hopefully will get rid of the air stairs. Okay, the APU generator is now online, so there we go. We can see in the overhead panel that it is producing voltage. Happy days. We'll go and do the window heat on whilst I remember it. Right overhead here, we'll put the IRS to align. And let's have a look. We've got emergency exits, we've got cover down so they're armed. We've got the chime on, fasten seatbelts. I love that sound. And chime it in. For the cabin pressurization, I'll put that to 17,000, because that's what I'll climb up to, and the landing altitude, I don't know, about 500. APU bleed can open, and this little panel here will just take some bleed air from the APU, and we can switch on the packs. So we get some air conditioning into the cabin. And the FMC, the one thing we do need to do is tell the aircraft where it is. So if you go to, in fact, if we go back to menu, it says enter IRS position. We go to FMC, position. Sometimes you'll get that through another page that has POS in it, but we've got to this page, POS initialization, and go top right button to copy the position, and then put it into set IRS position. That is all you need. Now what you'll notice is once the IRS is up, or the INS is up and aligned, you'll get attitude information and your map display. The aircraft will know where it is. What I'm going to do now, I'm not sure if it's accurate, but I'm going to put this to nav, and that will do its own thing. Once you've stopped faffing around with the IRS, you can put the yaw damper on. If you play around with the IRS after you've switched the yaw damper on, this will disengage. It is coupled. And there you go, attitude information is displayed. I'm not going to be using speeds today, so I'll just use the that looks about right technique and the red do not exceed ticker tape on the left hand side. Make sure the altimeters are set properly. Down to the right hand side, I'll be using the LAS VOR, so that is 1169, and I'll talk through the departure in just a minute. And I'll also set my usual squawk at 4577. For the autopilot panel, and that's what I call it because I'm a layman, but 349 is the radial that we're going to be selecting. Auto throttle can go to armed, flight director can go on both sides. Altitude's going to go up to 17,000 feet. Comme ça. Speed-wise, we're going to hold at 250. I know above 10,000 you can accelerate, but it's such a short hop, we're not going to bother accelerating. So 250 knots there. We'll put a heading of 300 as like an intercept course if we need to use it. And I think we're pretty much there. So we'll come back to that after takeoff. For the display, I think this one works best. I mean, map is good, but it won't give you your... in fact, actually, VOR LAS with the DME down there, that is all accurate. So whilst we're here, let's have a look at that departure that I talked about. This is the Dream 2 departure from the Nellis Red Flag in-flight guide. It's based on the Las Vegas VOR, VORTAC 1169, as you see. And after departure from runway 21 right is what we're going to do. Remain north of 7.5 miles, that's this arc. And then turn northbound to intercept the 349, which is why we've got the course set in. Between 5,000 and 6,000 feet, so we'll climb to about 2,500 feet before turning right. And do not proceed west of the 349. Again, all this is deconfliction from other air traffic going on. And we're going up to a fix, which is MINT, M-I-N-T-T, at or above 17,000, which is why we've dialed in 17,000. And then via assigned routing. That is it. That is our departure. It looks like it's time to start the engine. So what we'll do is we'll switch off the packs, because you need to have as much bleed air from the APU as possible, so we don't want to waste it on the packs. Well, that's my understanding anyway. We'll switch all the fuel pumps on. Ta-da! We'll switch on the hydraulic pumps, all there, and we will then put the anti-coal, so we've got flashing red lights outside. The engine starts, ignition is to both, and we'll start the right first. Put it into GRD, which I guess is ground. You'll notice on the center panel, or center display, that you've got EGT displayed and the rotation begins. Now I'm not sure when or which rotation is applicable when you want to go to idle. On this switch here, this is the cutoff, and you select that to idle, and what that does is, I guess, apply more fuel into the engine, and that will then go up to about 21 to 24% in terms of rotation. Nice. The thing looks absolutely amazing. I mean, look at it. Very, very cool. You'll know it's finished starting because the GRD switch will snap to the off position. And I'm going to start the left-hand engine going at the same time. I wonder if it's got enough oomph to do that. EGT is displayed. And rotation, yeah, cool. So very quick succession. Whilst I'm looking at this panel, I'm also going to select my automatic brake to reject it takeoff. And put this to the idle position. You can see the takeoff trims in the green sector. Like I said, if I haven't already mentioned, I'm not using speeds. I'm just going to be using the red do not exceed speeds on the ticker tape here, which I'll demonstrate when we take off. And a couple of different techniques in terms of the flap. Once the engine's up and running, we'll select a couple of stages of flaps. In fact, I can probably do that now. Will it? Is it? Yeah, it's going slowly. Right, both engines have started, so what we'll have a look at doing over here is selecting the engine generators online. We'll select the packs back to on. We will select the APU bleed valve off. We'll select the APU off, and we'll select the pitot heat on. Cool. Have a quick look around the overhead panel, make sure I haven't missed anything obvious. I'll put the taxi light on because we're about to go. Give him another ding dong. And I think that is about it. So let's taxi out. In terms of pre-takeoff checks, actually, there we go. Whilst I remember, pre-takeoff, we should select not GRD, but continuous on the ignition. I do flaps, lights, IFF, and pitot. So flaps are stage 2, and confirmed. Lights, we'll do takeoff lights, or landing lights, should I say? Come on. There we go. IFF is on, and pitot heat we've already done. That is all I need to do for takeoff. That'll do. Alright, great view of Las Vegas. Right, we'll set 40, make sure the engines are responding normally. That's cool, and we'll go for toga, brakes released. I'm looking for about 150, 160 knots, I think. That's what my guess is on my speeds. And rotate. Gear up. Nice. Beautiful. Okay, so with full power still applied, I'm just going to pitch in order to keep the aircraft accelerating. You can see the red ticket tape coming in, so I don't want to exceed like 248. And you can see my 349 radial out of the VORTAC here that I want to intercept. And the way I'm going to intercept that is 2.5 to 3,000. Well, I've turned a little bit late, but that's cool. I'll select about 30 degrees angle of bank, and you can see this little silly string here, the white stuff. And I can see that this turn is going to turn me just inside the radial, and that suits me perfectly. So we need to intercept the VOR between 5,000 and 6,000 feet. I could level off and take it a bit slower, but I'm happy just to continue on up. Flaps, because we're getting faster, I'll do both flaps all the way to up, and we can put the gear handle to the off position. Good stuff. Now that we're intercepting the VOR, we'll select VOR on the map display. You'll see this course deviation index coming in here. We can go for auto throttle as well. If we hit speed with auto throttle on, keep this pitch, the aircraft will now take over the speed control. We can also select the VOR localizer because that's what we're intercepting. Our flight director's now alive, so that's cool. And actually, I think we can probably hit the autopilot engage and it'll do the rest of the work itself. We probably need to tell it to go up. So vertical speed, let's tell it to go up about 2,500 feet a minute. My goodness, that actually worked. Look at me. Beautiful views outside. Look at that. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to switch the dome lights on just to make it a little bit brighter in here. Up through 10,000 feet, we'll do it early. We'll put the landing lights to off. The ignition can go back to off. Ta-da. In fact, we should have put that to strobes and steady, but there we go. Happy days, through 10,000 feet now. We can switch off the fasten seatbelt sign. Give them a 2-minute leg stretch. And I believe that's all she wrote. The next stage is leveling off at 17,000 feet. The weather looks... I mean, look at that scenery. That looks amazing out there. So leveling off at 17,000, and then we need to find our way to Area 51. Now, I haven't managed to tune in the VOR that I think is there, 1156, I believe. It just doesn't seem to be in this aircraft, nor does Kilo X-Ray Tango Alpha, which I believe is the ICAO for the airfield. But doesn't matter, because what we use is the VOR that we're currently locked onto, the LAS, and we're just going to use a different radial to intercept where the runway threshold is. And we're going to be making an approach to runway 32, so the northerly runway at Area 51, and then we'll park up next to a B2, which would be pretty cool. Like I said, I should have started accelerating, but I don't want to, because as soon as I get to 17,000, I'm going to start a turn to the left heading 295, and that's just an intercept course that I figured out on SkyVector to get us down towards the runway. So if you're still with me, thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying this video. It's a really common short hop between Nellis and Area 51. But if you're enjoying it, if it's useful, entertaining, then please smudge that like button, just help promote the video, and also the subscribe button helps support the channel. It's always much appreciated. I mean, look at the detail. I mean, the seats, the fluffy seats look fantastic. As does the circuit breaker panel. Really, really nice. Oh, that's good timing. 16,000 feet, altitude alert for 17. We know that Mint from the... Let's have a look. Ta-da. MINTT 17,000, it's at 30 miles based on the LAS. We are currently at... correction, 38 miles. We're currently at 30 miles. So in 8 miles, we'll be at Mint. Let's say that we have already been told we can turn, so we'll get on with it and make our next heading. So we'll set 295. We'll select heading select, so the aircraft will now start turning onto the heading. We'll change the radial to 321, and I know 321 radial at 75 miles is where the threshold is for runway 32. So we're currently at 33, so in another 40 miles we'll be at the threshold of the airfield. Really, really simple stuff. Look at those shadows. That is... Oh my god. It seems to be some sort of electrical short circuit. Some lightning in the cockpit. Right, I better get on with my descent then. So... we don't need taxi like that. I can go off. We'll put the fasten seat... Ooh, let's not do that. We'll put the fasten seatbelt on. We'll press B for the altimeter. And we will set 8,000 feet, I think. Ta-da, 8,000 feet on the altitude and a vertical speed of 2,500 feet a minute. Lovely stuff. Crikey. Now, this is live weather. There are no clouds around here that should be producing lightning, but there we go. It is Area 51, so stranger things could be happening. Oh my goodness. Cool. Right, now in the descent with 2,500 feet rate of descent, you can see my speed is increasing. That's because the aircraft has too much inertia. So what we'll do, pop the speed brakes, and that'll help control the speed. You can see the course deviation bar index being off to the left-hand side. So the radial that we're trying to intercept is over here, going in towards our airfield there. So this is working out nicely, and the speed's stable at around about 273 knots. Now, one of the biggest things I found with flying airliners, especially when I first started out, is to slow down in good time. Well, not just slow down, but descend and slow down in good time to make your approach. So we need to be below 240 knots for the first couple of stages of flaps. We need to be below 200 knots, I think, for the gear. Or at least that's what I've found so far when I'm practicing. And a decent rule of thumb, if you know how far away you are, and normally you do because you have a co-located navigational aid at your airport, or you're using GPS, then about 3 times your altitude in thousands of feet is the range at which you need to start descending. So if I was up at 20,000 feet, I'd want to start descending at 60 miles, 3 times 20 being 60. No, yes, that is correct. My goodness. So that's a good rule of thumb for descending. And then around about 1,800 to 2,000 feet a minute is a good rough gauge on how quick to descend under those parameters. Now I've started descending late, so I'm using a little bit of speed brake to get down. I could also, if I needed to, if I descended late, you could either request vectors, or if you're doing a VFR recovery, kind of just extend your ground track, so I could take a left turn, increase the ground track, and therefore the time I have available to descend on down. Now I'm going to shallow off my descent a little bit. 2,000 feet a minute. We are currently at 48 miles, so I want to be down at about 7,000 feet, I guess. Maybe 6,000 feet. I can't remember what the landing altitude is, so this is all guesswork for me. By the time I get to maybe 60 miles, that's 10 miles to lose another couple of thousand feet, which should work out nicely. And I'm just judging my glide path based on the approach here. You see the course deviation index is now coming into center, and in a minute I'll take a right hand turn to intercept. If I zoom in, probably make out the runway just about there, but it hasn't loaded. Let's start slowing this thing down, so 210 knots, let's go for that. And it won't really start capturing that speed until we've started leveling off. Heading wise, let's change the heading to the right. And I'm expecting to lose my VOR any minute because of the mountains in the way. And I think it does disappear at some point. But what we could do is press VOR localizer and it should fly us down the radial to the threshold. Now I noticed some ground proximity disablers here, so I'm going to switch off all of those and hopefully it won't shout at me too much for my approach. Let's have a look at some lights. It's daytime, so I'm not doing a covert arrival because everyone can see me. That's done. We'll select continuous on the ignition as well. We'll do another ding dong because I love it. I think that'll do. Lovely stuff. We can see the running rabbits now coming in, so there is our landing zone. Once we're on the deck, we're going to taxi off to the left. I'll go through some brief after landing checks and then I'll park it up. But again, if you're still with me and you've enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. Even better, subscribe. Alright, first couple of stages of flaps. And now I'm going to fly this thing manually because why the heck not? Cancel that by clicking these buttons here. And we'll keep on coming down. So you can see now I've selected the first two stages of flaps. It's gone to about 248, which is my do not exceed speed. And then every time I select a new stage of flaps, just to keep it really simple without knowing the numbers, if you're at least 15 to 20 knots slower than the max speed that you currently have, you're roughly okay for the next stage of flaps. Oh, look at that light. That is beautiful. Nice, we'll go for another stage of flaps. And another stage of flaps. You can see that red ticket tape coming down now. Well, so far so good. Nice stable approach, and I'm just doing it visually really. If you wanted to maintain a 2.5 to 3 degree glide path and you know you're already on that glide path, then if you divide your speed in half and then times by 10, you've got your required rate of descent for about 2.5 to 3 degrees. So at 180 knots, half of that is 90. Times 10 is 900 feet a minute. So if I held 900 feet a minute, I'd be on the glide path at that speed. And of course, as you slow down, you need to reduce your rate of descent. So we haven't lost the VOR, I've still got it. So the VOR distance, we're now at 68 miles. So 68 miles, if that's at 75 for the threshold, that gives us 6 or 7, that's 7 miles. So if I'm on a 3 degree glide path, 7 times 3 is 21, so I should be 2,100 feet above the ground. Okay, another stage of flaps. What are we down to? Looks like 15. My don't exceed speed looks like 182, so that's all good. My rate of descent's a little bit fast. I'm going to come down to about 140 knots. I think that'll work out just fine. Just stunning. Up's a bit steep, so I've got my rate of descent about 1,300 feet a minute at the moment. It'll probably start shouting at me in a minute for sync rate. Let's go for both stages of flaps, and hopefully I don't overstress it. There we go, cool. So 140 feet rate of descent, half of that is 700 feet a minute. And I just look like I'm a bit steep, so I'm bringing it down. You wait, any minute, sync rate, sync rate.
Sync rate.
There you go.
Sync rate.
Yeah, got it. Alright, here we go. Looking at my aiming point, look at my aiming point, 100 feet, roger that.
50, 30,
Idle,
20,
flare,
10.
spoilers, reverse thrust. Flying from outside. Oh, keep on the straight line. Yes. What I didn't do is auto brake. Let's put some manual braking in there. That's one thing I forgot. So that switch here. So I left it in rejected takeoff, so it looked like it was braking for me. And there we go. We'll put the spoilers back up. We'll put the flaps all the way up. We'll do the rest as we go, trying not to crash as I'm doing single pilot ops in a 737. Some of that, some of that. We don't need the strobes on anymore. Coming off to the left, and the TCAS can come off. At least this time I remembered to cancel my reverse thrust. In fact, let's have a double check. There we go. Cool. And TCAS. In this case, it's switching off everything you don't need. So pitot heats can come off. The window heat can come off. The APU takes 2 minutes to start, so remember as you're taxiing back to the gate, if you're not going to do it straight away, then switch it on with enough time for it to power up when you're ready to shut down. So let's do that now, so we don't forget, because I'm not paying for the fuel. So it don't matter. Ground ignition, go back to off. APU is going to start up, and obviously you can see the EGT rising just to double check it's working. It just looks awesome. I can appreciate a good looking airliner. Loads of space. There we go, spaceman. Obviously going through customs perhaps. And this hangar is big enough for our 737, so that is where we're going. Cool, the APU is online. You've got the gen off bus for the APU. Look at that. B2. Now, if I called it a B1 before, apologies, misspoke. It is, of course, a B2. Just a shame we can't fly it. Wingtip clearance, just about. Okay, parking brake is applied. APU will make sure that the APU generator is online. We'll make sure the APU bleed valve is online. We've got the APU volts working for us, and now we're good to switch off the engine. So let's switch off the beacon outside and the two cutoffs. And that's it. The rest you can switch off as you need to. You can do the rest of the ground maintenance as you need to. But that is it. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it was kind of useful, a bit interesting. And now we're here at Area 51. I'm going to find something more suited to touring the scenery. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll join me for the next video.